Hello everyone, this is G and I'm back with another video. I'm recording this with my camera phone because my computer camera keeps freezing for some reason. I don't know what's going on. This is my third attempt, count it, third attempt to record this video. So given that I am now properly frustrated, I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet, at least as short and sweet as I can keep it. So first of all, I hope everyone's doing well. I haven't done videos in a week or two. Life has been basically putting me on a fetch quest recently, so I've been a bit behind on videos. But I wanted to just comment briefly on the Tom King, Jae Lee situation. So for those who may not know, Tom King, on July 24th, I'm looking at his Twitter on my computer right now. On July 24th, so a few days ago, right, last Friday, I think, right, so it's been about 3 days, he says, today DC put out an alternate cover to the Horseshash, I don't know how you say it, cover by Jae Lee, who has also done covers for Comicsgate, a hate group. DC does not consult creators on alternate covers. I reached out to them to express my deep disappointment. As far as I'm concerned, this is the cover to Horseshash #1. Right? Tom King would then go on to say a few tweets later within the same day that I spoke with Jay. He's not on Twitter, didn't know Comicsgate existed, and doesn't support hate of any kind. We're all good. Best possible outcome. No, Tom. No. We're not all good. This is not the best possible outcome. The best possible outcome for this, Tom, would have been for you to be a mature adult, a professional, and realize that A, DC and fans don't give a damn about what you think about cover artists. You are not the artist, you are the writer. You don't do the line art, you don't do the regular art, you don't do the inking, you don't do the colors, you don't do the lettering. You're not a part of that, right? Now, yeah, you lay out panels and whatnot for what goes in the comic itself, right? But you're not drawing any of that. You're the writer. Know your place. #1. As The Rock would say, know your role and shut your mouth. #1. #2, this is the second time that Tom King has made a fool of himself this month. He got into a bit of a Twitter spat a few weeks ago, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, with Dean Cain. For those who are not familiar with Dean Cain is an actor. Dean Cain is an actor. He played Superman back in the mid-1990s TV show Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. And he said it in an interview with Fox and Friends that he believed that if he were playing Superman today, that Superman would not be allowed to say the phrase truth, justice, and the American way. Tom King tried to own, right, Dean Cain by saying, hey, I put it in a comic recently. F you, Dean Cain. And the panel that he showed didn't actually have Superman saying truth, justice, and the American way. It featured, I think, a character known as Sergeant Rock, a World War II character, thinking about how he believes in truth and justice and the American way. That is not the same as Superman saying it, right, as it being his dialogue in a comic. So he self-owned, and he kept trying to antagonize Dean Cain. Then he accused him of telling people to not wear masks. Dean Cain then posted a picture of himself wearing a mask on a plane. And Tom King basically continued to self-own, right, own goal, and just kept making a fool of himself, right? In trying to dunk on Dean Cain, all he did was just basically have the ball bounce back and hit him in the face. The funny thing is that I was watching a old wrestling match recently. It was The Rock versus Ken Shamrock, right? And there's this spot toward the end of the match where Ken Shamrock, who was playing the heel, so he was the bad guy in the match, he grabs a chair. He tries to hit The Rock with the chair. The Rock dodges the chair shot. The chair hits the ring ropes, and the force of Shamrock's swing causes the chair to bounce back and hit him in the face, which was the planned spot. That's the way it was supposed to go. But that sequence reminded me of Tom King versus Dean Cain, how he was basically Shamrock in this situation trying to hit Dean, the Rock in this case, right, with the chair, and all he did was just have it hit him back in the face, which he deserved. He made a fool of himself, right? You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And now he's doing it again by trying to cancel Jae Lee, and then saying that, oh, Jae Lee's not Comicsgate, he doesn't support hate of any kind, we're all good. No, we're not, Tom. What would have been all good is if you were an adult and behaved like a mean girl in high school. Then we would be all good. Here's the thing. When you work, right, especially on something like comic books, right, which is about bringing a team together, there's contracts, there's projects, and all this stuff, sooner or later you are going to be brought into contact with people who you don't like, who you don't agree with. Maybe you don't agree with their political opinions. Maybe they're of the political party that is ideologically opposite your own, right? Liberal having to work with a conservative having to work with a liberal, an apolitical person having to deal with either one of them, right? Whatever it is, you're going to run into people who are of different backgrounds, different races, religions, cultures, and whatnot. And yes, at times this is going to bring you into conflict, right, or at odds with each other. But here's the thing. When you are doing business, and this is what this is in the end, right? When you are doing business with somebody, or in this case, when DC is doing business with another artist, right? That, to my knowledge, wasn't working with Tom in any way. But when they're doing business with a third party and it doesn't involve you, why in the world do you feel the need to, as he said in his own, as he said in his own tweet, this isn't me, trying to summarize his words or, put my own spin on it. This is what he says. He says that, again, I'm reading his tweet. I reached out to them being DC Comics, to express my deep disappointment. It reminds me a lot of when Mark Waid reached out to Antarctic Press to express his deep disappointment with the fact that they were going to publish the Jawbreakers comic, which ultimately they didn't do. This also reminds me of how people express their disappointment with Dynamite, which eventually caused them to drop the Cecil cash grab cover, right? So when it involves a third party that you are not a part of, right? It's outside of you. Who in the world are you to not just comment on it? Right? It's one thing to just make a public statement and say, I don't like this. But it's another to reach out to DC and express your deep disappointment. Were you trying to get the man fired? Were you trying to get his cover pulled? Because that's what it seems like to me, Tom, that you were trying to get his cover pulled and or get him fired because he did covers for Comicsgate. Now, to my understanding, given what Heel vs. Babyface said in his video, apparently Jae Lee did a cover for Cyberfrog back, I think it was Image? It was an Image comic back in the day? But he did a cover for Cyberfrog like back in the mid-90s, like in 1996, and now, given that Cyberfrog is back via Indiegogo and Ethan Van Sciver's, had a very positive response with it, and he's doing a lot of work with it, right? It's been very successful. Jae Lee came back and did a cover. This is not uncommon for artists of all types to do something years ago. It comes back up decades later, and they go back to the work in some fashion. They do a cover, or they do an updated version of a song, or whatever it is. This is not new. In any way, this is not new at all for an artist to revisit a work that they first worked on literal decades ago, nearly a quarter of a century ago, 25 years almost. But Tom King needs to have an issue with it and needs to express his deep disappointment with DC. Now, who knows what that means? Did he speak to Jim Lee? Did he speak to another higher-up? I don't know. All I know is that, in my opinion, he crossed all the lines, and he shouldn't have, because it's got nothing to do with him. It's different if maybe this person is on your creative team and you two have history and beef and you know that you just can't work together. That does happen at times. But if this is just a one-off cover and Tom King has nothing to do with it, right? It doesn't involve him in any way. Who the hell is he to reach out to anybody in DC and express his deep disappointment about who they choose to do variant covers for their comics? Whether or not they're part of Comicsgate. Here's the thing. Comicsgate has its own drama, it has its own issues. I have my issues with Comicsgate and with particular people in Comicsgate, right? But here's the thing. Comicsgate is not a hate group. Comicsgate did not try to cancel Sean Gordon Murphy multiple times. Mainstream Comics did. Comicsgate did not accuse Sean Gordon Murphy of dog whistling because his plot holes campaign is on Indiegogo. Mainstream Comics did. Comicsgate did not put out the Comics Pledge, pledging to protect everybody but men. The mainstream comics industry did that. Comicsgate did not accuse Sean Gordon Murphy of something. Max Visaggio did that. Comicsgate did not try to get other artists canceled, right, who are in the mainstream comics industry. But the industry does that to Comicsgate all the time. Comicsgate did not harass Babs Tarr and accuse her of blackface just because she drew an avatar of herself with a deep tan. Mainstream Comics did that one. Comicsgate did not try to prevent a comic book from being published and being in stores, nor is anybody in Comicsgate being sued for that. That's Mark Waid, right? Mainstream Comics Pro legend and madman extraordinaire. Comicsgate did not send sexually explicit pictures of buttholes to Ethan Van Sciver. That was Robbie Rodriguez in the mainstream comic industry. The only thing that Comicsgate hates are poor comics, worse behavior, right? Lack of true diversity, right? And the attacks and mischaracterizations that constantly come at them from the mainstream comics industry. That's what Comicsgate hates, right? Now, if you promote that, which is what the mainstream comics industry does, then yes, I guess you could call them a hate group. But hating bad product that doesn't sell, hating product that is needlessly infused with modern day social and political issues, right? There is nothing wrong with hating that. There is nothing wrong with hating trash comics from trash people who create trash. Okay, y'all aren't Oscar the Grouch. There's nothing likable about most people in the mainstream industry, unfortunately. I hate to say that, but that's true. The mainstream industry has become incredibly toxic. There was always a level of toxicity, as there is with anything, especially in entertainment, but now it is truly a cesspool of toxicity, right? A whisper network where everyone is shouting from the rooftops about how you need to toe the party line or else. And don't you dare do anything that could remotely compare you to the big bad Comicsgate, like use Indiegogo to fund your own independent comic like Sean Gordon Murphy did. Ooh, dog whistle. Or maybe, just maybe, he's trying to make a comic that he has the rights to and that isn't the property of another company. You know, creator rights, which is something that's always been an issue in the comic book industry. Maybe it's just that. Maybe it's not that he's trying to dog whistle Comicsgate. Maybe he's just trying to provide his fans with a new work that he wants to share with them. Ever think of that? Right? So you have all this. And then, of course, you have Dynamite canceling Cecil's cover. Guess what, Dynamite? All you've done is help Cecil and Comicsgate by doing this. Because Comicsgate is going to rally around Cecil, which they've already done. People who are not Comicsgate, or who don't know exactly what's going on and what the issue is, are going to rally around him because he's obviously the wronged party here. He did his part. He made a cover, right? He made an alternate version of his cash grab cover, and this time it was featuring Vampirella and Red Sonja because they are female, or I should say properties with female leads that Dynamite Comics publishes, right? I thought the cover was fine, right? A little silly, a little goofy. But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But then they caved and kowtowed, as Dynamite does, and now guess what? Mainstream pros are not going to forgive them for doing any sort of business with Cecil. And now, Ethan Van Sciver has stated in a Twitter post that he's not going to be doing business with Dynamite anymore. So guess what? You lost the mainstream pros, you lost Comicsgate, which is the side that's making money, right? Be a dirty capitalist for 1 minute and realize that Comicsgate is the one that's actually producing product that is making money. Even Cecil's own Indiegogo for the Dynamite cover said that it was funded in less than an hour, and you dropped it because some professionals, some no-name professionals, not superstar artists, just no-name professionals, said that they weren't going to work with you anymore. This is what happens when you don't have a spine and don't stand up for yourself or others, right? If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for everything. And if you won't stand up for yourself, guess what? People are going to walk all over you and you'll just lose everything. Dynamite should have stood with Cecil. Same way Antarctic Press should have stood with Richard Meyer, right? Diversity in comics now, comics matter. That's what they should have done. But they didn't. They caved. And now guess what? Is Antarctic Press doing any better for not publishing that book? Right? Did the pros suddenly elevate them to high status? Are they the ones DC turned to when they finally left Diamond Distribution recently? No. No. Antarctic is still a small publisher who's now being dragged into this court battle between Richard Meyer and Mark Waid. Right? So guess what? Not standing their ground just brought them legal trouble. This is why when you feel passionately about something, even if people disagree with you, if you feel it's the right thing and you know it's the right thing, then you need to stand by it, right? It's like that Captain America quote, right? If the world and the press say it's wrong, but you know it's right, then your job is to stand like a tree beside the river of truth and to tell the world, no, you move. You need to have a spine and you need to stand up at least for yourself. Otherwise, this is what happens. Jae Lee did nothing wrong by doing a cover for Ethan Van Sciver back in the 1990s or now. Tom King is the one who did wrong by trying, in my opinion, to run interference on this cover, right? Either not getting it published or whatever. He had no right, I can't see any professional right, to contact DC to express his deep disappointment. And then he tries to smooth it over by saying, false alarm, false alarm, false alarm, we're all good here. No, we're not. If there's a hate group here, it is the mainstream comic book industry. It is the mainstream comic book industry that demonstrates time and again, very openly, just how hateful they are of anyone who in any way opposes them or criticizes them. You tell them a comic is bad, it's harassment. You make a joke or two at their expense, it's hate. No. The mainstream comics industry are the ones who are hateful. You, Tom King, are the one who is part of a hate group. And you are part of the same hate group that Max Versace is part of, the same hate group that Gail Simone is part of, that Tess Fowler is part of, that Mark Waid is part of, and many, 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 many other pros. Frank Cho of Comicsgate. Did you think I forgot that, Frank? I didn't forget it. All you've done is make a fool of yourself. Dynamite. And Dynamite has made a fool of themselves, and they're going to pay, as they should. Tom King has made a fool of himself twice in 1 month. You're not hurting Comicsgate when you do these things. All the mainstream pros are doing is hurting themselves, because here's the thing. There's this thing called the silent majority. The majority of people are not going to openly or overtly say something, right? They're not going to make a video or go on Twitter and leave a comment. The minority do that. The most people will not. But guess what? Most people, especially given that we're living in COVID and money is tight for many people, because they're not working or their work schedules are scattered or in other ways reduced, guess what's happening? They're not going to choose Tom King's comics. They're not going to choose comics at all. Because why would you? When the product is bad all the time, why would you? The funny thing is that a few more tweets up, Tom King retweeted, I'm trying to find, I'm scrolling through it right now. He tries to put these more positive tweets up. Dude, it's too late. It's too late. Oh, where is it? Oh, here we go. He retweeted this tweet from Erica Schultz. He retweeted it today, about 5 hours ago. The tweet says, "Join me, Tom King, Steph Smash." I don't know who that is. Who's Steph Smash? Stephanie Phillips. I don't know who she is. Apparently she's done work for DC. She lists DC heavy metal, Dark Horse, Black Mask, and a few other things. Anyway, alright, so Tom King, some lady I haven't heard of, and a whole lot of other people much cooler than I am for MF Comic Con on August 15th and 16th. You don't even need to get out of your PJs to attend. Guess what? I'm not attending. Could I attend? Yeah, I could attend a lot of Comic Cons right now because they're being done online because of COVID. But I'm not going to. Why would I? Why would I spend my time, which is incredibly limited given my life, watching Tom King make a fool of himself again? Prior to this, I didn't have much of an opinion of Tom King as a person. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I read some of his Mr. Miracle. I read about 5 issues. I didn't like it. I found it to be very depressing and confusing. I read some of his, excuse me? I read some of his, Batman, like about 3 issues. Again, I was just depressed and confused by the time I was done reading it. And I just decided Tom King was just not the writer for me. Right? And that happens. Right? You might like a writer on one book or one character, you don't like them on another, or you just don't like their work in general. That's okay, right? Personal taste is personal taste. But now I dislike Tom King as a person. And if anyone should ever ask me, well, Gene, why do you dislike Tom King as a person? I dislike Tom King as a person because what he has done in a public space. Twitter is a public forum. I dislike him for trying to run interference on another man's work, on another man's contract, or another man's job, just because he doesn't like the group that he believed this man was a part of, which, if we go by Tom's tweet, right, he actually isn't. Now, whether that's true or not, don't know. By Tom's own admission, Jae Lee doesn't have a Twitter. But guess what? Even if he was Comicsgate, it doesn't matter. Especially considering that again, Tom King's not the artist. No one goes to him for opinions on art. To quote The Rock, know your role and shut your mouth, jabroni. No one gives a damn about what you think, Tom. But anyway, that's the video. Please let me know what you think. And I will see you all in the next one. I don't know when the next one will be. Hopefully this week. I don't know. But I will see you all in the next one. Have a good day or night, everybody. See you around. Bye.